actual issue tracker. I'm going to
Yep. Sounds good.
And then the first one we could probably skip because it needs rod, but the second one is one we can go into, I guess.
Just words about the Python issue review would be much appreciated. Although the Python code. No, let's go back. Python issue was we wanted to run Python 3 linting always, or at least for master and Node 12. Our linter job, which runs as part of Node.js pull request, has been migrated a while ago. And the other job that does linting is the pipeline job that runs as part of the light pull request test. So I patched it. It's up. It's shipped as inline pipeline code in the job. So once we like review this and land, the job can return to using the checked in version.
Real quick, Raphael, should this wait for the meeting so that you can talk about it while we're broadcasting, or is this?
Yeah, actually, we're already live.
Oh, never mind.
I should say welcome to the Build Working Group meeting, the Node.js Build Working Group meeting for April 2nd, 2019. Now, was that issue on the agenda or one that you were adding?
So the issue was on the agenda. It was.
I'll put it back.
Okay.
It's in the bug tracker.
Yeah, I just put it back. It's
essentially just a quick review. I took a detour from our tentatively established standard working procedure. I've cloned the job, patched the pipeline code in line in the job, tested it quite thoroughly, waited for a review, and then I just put the patched code live. Keeping my eye on it, no faults up to now, but still, I'd like a review on that and approval and together.
Okay, so is it? So this is 1631.
Yeah.
And you need, it's not a PR because we don't have that stuff in the PR, but you need somebody, you want somebody to look at the node test linter job?
Oh, there's a PR, like in the end, I think
okay.
I linked to an actual PR.
Okay, so that's 1745, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so request needs quick review of number 1745. Okay, so you've already tested it. It's actually already live, you said, but we just need to, and that's running on the Linux One machines, which run the
No, that's
light.
It's still, so the Linux, our live PI runs two subjobs. One is the Linux one for building and testing. The linter still runs on OpenBSD because of Gmail club issues, which we never bothered to solve.
Okay, but so yeah, I confused that because it was late. But so basically, you're just asking for a review there. So if one of us can get to 1745, and
I'm not seeing that in the issue, but I'm probably just need to look at it.
It's referenced as the very
it's like the last line.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, because I was looking at pull 25614, which was restore Python linting to test fixtures. But okay, never mind. I'm going to ignore that one and look at pipelines. Okay, yeah, got it.
So there's another, I took the opportunity that we're looking at pipelines, and I've cleaned up its parent, the Node.js Build request live pipeline job, which had a few parameters which we always use the defaults of. So I just cleaned it up a little bit. That's
at the risk of going off on a tangent here. The pipelines, is that still a direction we think is useful? Like,
so it has. I'm ambivalent about that a little bit because I've come to resent Groovy. It's uncomfortable to me, but outside of that, its biggest benefit is that we could write some common routines and reuse them, and we've already have a couple of those, like how we do rebasing on Git, how we push to the bot for updating the status, etc., etc. All sorts of like pre-flighting, which at the moment is in Bash, and we copy paste it.
right.
Or at best, we like factor it out and then pull and run the Bash script.
Okay. I just like, it seems harder to see the results sometimes, was my only.
So it goes both ways. If you're looking for like a console dump, then yeah, but the GUI is much better filtered. You can see a breakdown of every step of the job and then just look at that part without all the other noise, which is a plus. Also, what we've been doing is, and Jenkins has improved, is we don't run jobs actually in parallel in the pipeline. What we do is we spawn another job. And this way, we don't get like a huge mess of all the parallel jobs multiplexed into one console. We get a nicer looking, I'll try to share that. We get like a nicer looking view where it's easy to see what's going on. There, I'll try and share this.
So this started as a conversation about the Python 2, Python 3 stuff, and this is valuable. And I actually do want to see this real quick if you could share your screen. But I do want to make sure we don't not leave time for the other issues. Although they're probably both pretty short this week. But
That's
anyway.
what I was thinking. But yeah, I agree.
I do want to see this real quick.
I just didn't want to. Yeah.
So. You seeing me or you seeing my screen?
I'm seeing the screen. Now, where do you get that view from?
So so let's go back to steps. Let's go here. So so actually we regressed a little bit, another tangent from the bot, but let's say this is like the screen that everybody knows, the classical Jenkins view. If you click open Blue Ocean, you get this view, which shows you the pipeline, and it shows, I don't know why it popped to the regression test phase, which unfortunately, because it spawns an old job, this is all we get. But if we click on,
I'm glad you're as you're as miffed as I am. It's like I'm often like,
okay,
look at the console.
Okay, so here for the linter, which is, if we roll back a few minutes, we have the light pipeline which spawns the linter pipeline. So we see this nice link, and then we can see what's been going on with the linter. It ran this, and then it ran this, and then it ran this, and then it actually ran the shell script, and it ran the linting. And if there's a lint failure, it pops up. Let me see if I can.
So it's like in Travis, where like each step is its own minimized thing.
Cool. Oh, here. So here we have, no, we don't have a linter failure. We have, oh, yeah, we do. And here, I managed to make it show us this lint failed, open above section for details.
Maybe try the tab.
It's 2 steps above, but here it is. Like you can sort of get to a more focused view of where the errors fell. So optimally, we can get something that can break down the noise, the huge bulk of noise into sections.
Okay,
so it's nice, but there's a little bit of a
I guess it's like, and if you don't use the blue ocean view, the pipelines look worse, by much worse.
So here, if we go back, and this is the linter, it doesn't look much worse. You just get these, metadata of what's happening. It looks pretty much similar to what we have right now. I think
I had a hard time finding how to get actually get the output.
So maybe we can move along to the rest of the agenda, and if we want to continue with Jenkins doing exploration, we can do that when we're done broadcasting.
Yep, sounds good.
And also about
also what? I'm sorry, what was that, Raphael?
I said enough about that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I mean, my fault for asking. Thanks for showing us that. So
Sam, I just muted you because there was a lot of noise. If you were trying to talk, you'll have to, there you go.
So let's move on to request for elevated permissions, which is 1337. It's next on the agenda. I think, Rich, that's your comment about, do you want to ask that one, or?
What is this?
Well, there's a comment that says, is this on the agenda to approve MacLover 7's request, or is it an ongoing discussion of the process?
Yeah, I mean,
that wasn't you.
Rod and maybe Raphael, but I think mostly Rod, because I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, at some point Rod had agreed to take this on, but it's kind of not been a high priority item.
Yeah.
So we made a tiny step in the right direction, and that's, well, actually 2. There's like an ongoing process where IBM people are getting access to IBM machines. And anyway, I assume they have more access to the infra than anybody else. That's step 1. The other one is we split off. The other one is we split off the Mac Stadium permissions into its own atom. So it's like 2 tiny steps in that direction.
Yep. Few steps. So yeah. So I think that's, at least we have one step, 2 steps, 1 step in particular of getting the OS X infra broken out, and you have access, right? So. So yeah, Rod.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I actually don't have a whole lot of time to talk about it today, but this is. I did take on responsibility for this, and we have been making very tiny steps. I just don't. I don't think I have the bandwidth to do a lot of the stuff I said I wanted to do about this, which was really documenting all the little bits of permissions we have. But I do like the process of dealing with things individually. The infra stuff, I think we can split up a bit more. There's only a few of our infra stuff that really gives you access to a lot. Like DigitalOcean would give you access to almost all of our stuff, because you can get access to the website and services where there's keys and stuff. So I think we can work on this incrementally. I don't have much else to say right now, sorry.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm just saying, I'm trying to document everything, but we can take steps like the OSX breakout. I think that, acknowledging time constraints, I think taking steps like that makes sense.
There's another part of this that we haven't acknowledged that we need to be careful about, which is our relationship with infrastructure providers. One of my big concerns with being more liberal with infrastructure access is that we lose the connectivity between the resources we use and the relationship we have with them, because some of the constraints we have with the providers are soft. They're not like, oh, you can use this many machines.
Yep.
It's there's a feel that we have to have for, are we pushing the friendship? And so, or certain people in the group know more information about it than others, and yeah, so we've just got to be careful not to be working under the assumption that we can use maximum resources that we have. That's it.
Yeah, I wonder if we should, if we grow the number of people, should we actually make it a little bit more formal in terms of, if we're going to add a machine in a particular infra, open an issue and say, I'd like to do this, and make sure that other build members chime in saying, yes, that, that's okay, or no, wait a sec, I think we're at the limit of what we should be doing there, right?
Yeah, maybe, and that would probably help uncover some of these situations where the rules are not clear. That might be a good idea.
Yeah, because I think, like, it's true, I a number of them, and I think different people sort of have the relationship to know whether we're there or not, and that lets us give people access, because most of the time, if we're just dealing with existing machines, fixing them and stuff like that, it's not a concern. It's only when we start to add things. So
also, I've noticed, I know for sure that Azure has that, and I've seen that Mac Stadium has that. They have an IAM, like an what's it called, like an identity management and like sub permission delegation. For instance, for me, the ability to restart the machine is ridiculously way higher on the list than actually provisioning it. So if that's like an easier step to do, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know if other providers have that level of detail, but I know that some of them do have individual access. Like Joyent does, and we just don't use it. Well, at least I don't, because I've never made it work well for me. But perhaps that's something we could investigate.
I think that's not bad either, but I think even just the, as we give people access, it's just the request to say, before you add and use, before we add resources, just let's open an issue in the repo that says, hey, this is my plan, leave it open for, enough time for people to comment. And I think that'll hopefully mean that whoever has the knowledge in terms of are we close or not can chime in and address that. If we can also use things that are, within the UI to restrict or whatever, we could do that too. But I think that first step covers it, whether or not the infra has the ability to help us, right? I guess my last question on this one would be, do we need to leave it on the agenda?
I mean, it's not going to move forward if we don't, to be honest, is my feeling.
Sure. Okay.
But at the same time, does it make sense to have it perpetually on the agenda? I mean, it's never going to be done, you know, it's.
Yeah, that's kind of my like.
Well, I don't know what the answer is there.
If we were actively pushing on it and we thought that there was things to check in on, yeah, if we're like, well, we're going to do what we can when we can, then I'm less like, I mean, I don't really feel strongly one way or the other, so I'm happy to leave it on. But
we can make it a sticky issue like we have in core. Keep it in mind, but I don't think it has to be the agenda. But then again, we'd have an empty agenda.
Yeah. So anyway, well, we'll leave it on for now, and
we can always the other issue that's permanently on the agenda.
Right. Yes. Okay. So the other one, we'll move on to the next one, which is use Foundation's resource to support build issues 1154. I think it was Rich, you and Rod had kind of the next action on that one, right?
Did we?
Yeah, I think my understanding was it was that, you know, you were going to work out to do some accounting. There it is, the comment. To do some accounting of resources and costs to try and come up with proposals and plans for reducing the pain.
I'm in there. Where is this? Let's see here.
It is here. I'll grab the comment, the link here.
Yeah, the way we're going to tackle this was doing some more strategic planning, at least the strategic accounting of the resources that we use and what that means, what the implications are for how thin the team is or how stretched the resources are. That's as far as I remember where we left it, and we just haven't done anything. It's like that last issue. It's one of these things that it's going to require a chunk of time, and every time I look at the agenda for these meetings and I see those two, I get a knot in my stomach.
Right. But it's almost, I mean, the reason it's on the agenda is because we don't have time to do anything, because we don't have time for things, right?
That's an unfortunate use of the agenda, but yeah, that would seem to be true.
well, I meant, but it's like the reason we're talking about using Foundation resources is because, right, we don't have time to get the things. And it's sort of like a symptom and the cause all in one.
Yeah, I'm also, I mean, there's also, I believe, some skepticism about, hiring people to do these sorts of things, basically.
Yeah, there's not consensus that that's a good thing, right?
Right.
I have 3 comments. One is, again, IBM taking care of IBM machines is fantastic. That's like, cutting the middleman.
Yep.
Second thing is, we did discuss all the Microsoft Windows, etc., and like engine name. We talked about it last time. Third one is the whole experimental build idea. I think it's gonna be a big step in this direction in terms of prioritizing for the volunteers in the group, like what is high priority and what is lower priority. So if we designate a few things as experimental build, it frees up, or it makes much more order in the work backlog. And the fourth thing was that, and I keep mentioning it, is that I think a much healthier and more easy to swallow idea would be for foundation members to sponsor people directly instead of going through the foundation. For instance, we have Luca from Nearform, Rod from NodeSource, until Michael from IBM, etc. Sam coming from IBM. So like make a member to person connection is probably going to be better than going through the foundation, which nobody wants to set a precedent. Nobody wants like to make.
Right. I guess it would be then, how do we, like, because we're down to Microsoft and IBM, I think, having members who are directly involved, right?
Yeah. So we could discuss that, offline, but we could approach the other big members. There are now more.
Yeah.
And figure out how we can do that. But I think that's going to be simpler, faster, higher, stronger, as Daft Punk said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm certainly, if we can make that happen, that certainly makes sense to me. But it's the how do we take whatever the next step will be. The foundation seemed open to providing some resource, so we could, if we thought that was okay, we could do that. If we're not going to do that, then it's like, okay, what's our ask from the foundation in terms of helping to get the larger members and have somebody be involved and actually, help carry the weight.
I think that's a little bit of type work, like form some sort of SOW, or even a smaller, like a definition of what are we asking from the members, get everybody to approve on an ask.
Yep.
Then spread it. So I think that's like a nice step, that if the ask comes from the group, the foundation says we don't object to that.
Yep.
That's like a nice step, incremental step. Again, the alternative is status quo, which is, like I said, an SLA of meh, and until the next crisis.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't have there been any recent panics or anything that I've missed? I haven't seen too many recently, I don't think, but
no, but
I'm not saying that we're in a good state. I'm just wondering if there's been things I've missed.
With the Embiggened Foundation, is there a risk of going to them and talking about this stuff, that they come back and say, hey, we've got a lot more projects that need resources? You should help them out too.
I think, being part of a larger foundation, we should be looking for how we can cooperate. In terms of us being able to respond to an ask for help to other projects, I think we're not in a good position necessarily to do that. And I don't think there's anything that says we're going to have to if we can't help, right? But I if there's a way we could cooperate and make everything more efficient, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of going to members even and asking and saying, hey, you guys are involved in this thing. You should think about putting resources in. Are they going to say, well, we're involved in it, but it's a bigger thing now, so we'd really love to put resources into a bigger thing. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or a good thing or anything. I'm saying that that's a thing that could happen, and how do we feel about that? It complicates our relationship with our sponsors, our hardware donors, because they don't donate to Node.
Yep.
It's an interesting bundle of challenges. So,
yeah, I think there's a bunch of things there, but if there were additional resources to help manage some of the work or some of the things, like you said, I think that would be a good thing, right? I mean, we just need to work through how you would take into account, obviously, yeah, the current donators are donators to Node. So either it needs to stay that way or we need their okay that, machines can be used more broadly, that kind of stuff.
Just from a quick, very superficial overview of the projects that came from the JSF, overwhelmingly JavaScript forward. So things like Travis and Circle CI have been fantastic up until now. I'm not seeing anything jumping out at me as a big ask from like a group that's more specialized in niche platforms and custom workflows.
Right, because it's all cross-platform. Although, yeah.
So I'm not on that issue. That's like my half a cent. I do want to mix in all the talk that's been happening last few days about spin-off of the package registry and sticking us with the bill.
I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah.
So I don't really.
Yeah, I don't know what there is to talk about there on that front.
I'm just saying, we agree.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea.
That wouldn't be the build working group,
That would be a much larger and different initiative for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And, yeah. So I would like to just make a note of that. I just opened a pull request to add a strategic initiative to the CSC. I added you as one of the owners, Rod, but if you'd like it to just be me, that's fine. But I think it'll be a lot easier for me to do it if I have your buy-in as a resource.
Right, so this is, where was it? Build resources, okay. Yep, that sounds good. But I guess the suggestion Raphael was making was to actually let's write down and ask. Now, is what you've just got there the prereq for that?
I mean, it's a place to send the ask, I guess, but no, I mean,
Because if we were going to go back to the foundation and say, okay, we want if
we're going to ask for stuff, the TSC is going to have to make the ask to the board, right? So,
right.
Yeah. So, anyway, go ahead, Michael.
But yeah, it's I'm just thinking how do we actually get to the point where we have the ask? Is it if the ask is as simple as we would like we'd like the other major contributors or members to provide, people with time. Or
so I think before we do any of that, we don't know what we're going to ask for. I think step one is just have a complete accounting of what we have.
Right.
And
okay.
I have a very simple ask. If somebody's willing to sponsor my time working on the build, that's simple, well defined, and I think will immensely help the build working group.
Yeah, and there are different ways to think about that. I suspect that an ask that the foundation give you a stipend will probably meet far more resistance than an ask that the foundation work with a member company to sponsor your time or something like that.
That's what I'm hinting at.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where if that's a one paragraph thing that says we want more of the companies to get involved and have people actively participating because we're keeping up but barely, right?
We have work that's not critical, incident response, preparing for Node 12, which gets delayed.
Yeah, and in terms of risk management, I think there's risks that somebody gets hit by a bus, is the typical wording. We are then in trouble.
Hit by aliens because we had someone hit by a bus once. But go ahead.
Okay, well, whatever the right wording for that is to say, we no longer have access to one of the people who's helping to do the current work. We're stretched to the point where you're really quite out of luck, right? And so I don't think it's unreasonable ask to say, to manage the risk for our builds, we really need more resource, and the way we think we can get, we haven't managed to get it through volunteers. So can we ask the members to step up, right?
Okay, so I'm gonna especially once the strategic initiative gets approved, I'm gonna take this on. Rod will take it on if he has cycles, and if he doesn't, then he'll offload it to me I'll do as much as I can. I'll probably be really annoying to you, Michael,
sure,
and to Rod to ask, and you, Raphael, to ask a whole bunch of questions. The goal is to get to a point where we have something concrete that we're asking for that we all feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
We may not completely close the gap between our ideal and where we are, but we do know that we could use more resources. We just have to specify what we think the best way to deploy additional resources would be. Like if we only have X number of dollars, what's the best way to spend it? That kind of thing. And so, since Rod and I volunteered to do it.
Yep. I'm not sure we have the one thing I'd say is we don't have to have it all figured out. Like you could go anywhere from we're at risk because we don't have enough people to here's the nitty gritty things you need to do. And I don't think we need to be at what the nitty gritty things we need to do, but.
Well, yeah, and then there's the other side of it, which is we can ask for nitty-gritty things, and the board will look at it and say, well, we can't do that for you, but we're going to do this other thing. And we have to be prepared to, we asked for a door, we got half a door, what are we going to do?
Right.
And, and that's life, and we'll function with it. But yeah, the more detail we can give, the more likely we are to get what we actually need. But obviously, better to ask for something not terribly specific than to not ask. So
right. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's just like as best we can form it, but let's not let it go forever because we could easily
I know some people are, because invariably that sort of thing does cause, some people to be uneasy, but I do think that having member companies sponsor individuals who are not currently affiliated with foundation members is a really good thing to at least consider, because one of our sort of like internal dynamic issues is that we don't for good reasons or for not good reasons, whatever, but for reasons, we tend not to instill a whole bunch of privilege and trust into individuals who are not affiliated with, in some fashion with member orgs. And maybe there's a really good reason for that, but if that's the case, it limits our pool of people who can be trusted with elevated privileges. So anything we can do to expand that pool is probably, anything we do to responsibly expand that pool is probably a good thing to at least consider. So I just want
I think one of the limiting factors is that we have no way to make a legal or semi-legal affiliation between the group, the work, and the people. So I'm a completely voluntary goodwill association and trust, and that puts a limit on trust if the board, the foundation could formulate a tool that we can bind people or affiliate some sort of agreement between the work and people. That's a nice thing. We talked about it long ago. Nothing like none of the people we pinged followed up on that. Like creating, some sort of an agreement or a
Right.
statement of responsibility that somebody who's a volunteer, it doesn't have any other legal agreement might undertake in order to improve trust levels.
So we have 15 minutes. Do we want to close out this conversation, or is there more comments that people want to make?
I think given that you're gonna start an initiative, and I guess, do you have? Yeah, I won't even ask that. But I think we have a way forward. It sounds like you'll come up with the next step. I think that's good enough in terms of what I would want to discuss.
Okay.
In terms of other thing, that was what was on the agenda itself. Now, I know there was a few things, though, in the issue, right? Was there? So 2601, 26401, investigate flaky test worker prof. So, Rich, you were suggesting we add that one?
Well, just the issue of how do people get core files when they need it. But honestly, I think Girish and Anna and maybe Raphael too, I forget, are conversations moving in there. Progress is being made. I'm going to I think maybe my inclination is to leave well enough alone.
Okay.
But I don't know if, and Raphael threw a few comments in there about, getting core files is different depending on who the provider is, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I don't think we want to take on that conversation here and now.
Okay. Okay, just looking at any other comments in the issue itself. Right, so the other one's taking one off. So I think that's everything that was on the agenda. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? There was something, sorry, go ahead.
I just posted a link to build issue number 625. It's been dormant for a long time. It was something you requested, Michael, about 2 years ago. I'm inclined to close it unless this is something that would still be useful to pursue. Just throwing that out. You don't have to decide on that right now.
I mean,
we can
I still think we should have now the node inspect that.
I mean, that's inside.
It's now inside. If we have provided, I'm assuming that when we pulled it into Node, we added appropriate testing for it as well. If that's the case, then this should just close.
Yeah, there's tests in the regular Node test suite for Node inspect, and it's in the cover report and all that stuff.
Yeah, so this is long stale.
Okay, Node inspect plus tests are now in Node.js core. For closing, feel free to reopen if there's something I'm missing. Okay, thanks. Just want to do a little grooming on the issue tracker because
that's always appreciated.
For a tiny group, we have a lot of open issues.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Thanks.
I guess in terms of 12, is there anything? I know Sam and I are working away at the IBM platforms to get the new compilers and stuff in refac. Are we looking like we're okay on the other? Are you looking at the other ones for 12?
Yeah. So I have some conclusions on. So we're gonna have a problem. We're linking against, we're using a new compiler. New compiler comes with a new GCC. New GCC comes with its own new or incrementally newer libstdc++ version. And if our linker is gonna link to newer symbols, Node is not going to work.
Yeah, unless you put that library in your path, which is what we've had
which is what's happening right now. For instance, on the Linux One Enterprise, the Red Hat Enterprise, we are using one symbol that was added between GCC 4.8 and 4.9, and so you have to have the new library.
Yep.
We know that Red Hat's DevTool set solves that, and I've done some reading and tracking and research. So what the libtoolset does is DevToolset is they link beside the dynamic library, they link the delta between their known target OS and their known target GCC. They link that delta into a static library, which is statically linked into all binaries. Essentially, we can steal that library and link with it statically on Ubuntu, for instance, if it's the same platform. So wherever they solve the problem, on any platform they solve the problem, we can solve it. The second solution is to statically link the whole of libstd++. That's like the first thing that the internet suggests to do. The third option is to bundle it. Bundle the, funny, I just got a Twitter notification related. So bundle the static object in our, the dynamic object as a dynamic object in our packages. So Node can dynamically load it at runtime. Any one of those solutions will solve a problem. It's going to be a problem. Again, doesn't really matter if we're going with GCC 6 or GCC 8.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think, like, I would say those are all things to think about post 12 because it's too close to 12 in my mind.
So again, we're gonna release a binary that doesn't work, which is going to be a first.
That's not a first. It's been the same thing for 4.9. When we were forced to move to 4.9, so for our platforms, we've been in the same position. And so I don't see that 12 is any different with that. I would like to improve it. Like way back when we did look at the Red Hat developer toolset. Like, I'm not sure when you get to things like, well, we're going to take the library from one compiler toolchain and put it use it in a context where it wasn't intended. We have to think about licensing implications and all that kind of stuff. What we are pursuing is, I think there may be a version of the developer toolset for S390 now. It may be that it's a later GCC. So I'm trying to figure that out. Unfortunately, that seems to be harder to figure out than I would think. Even asking people, like I pulled in Dan, who's on the TSC, who's at Red Hat. So that I'm hoping actually is the longer term solution, is that if we can actually get a GCC version, I don't see it for 12 because we've just got a few weeks left. And so for 12, I'm looking to say, yep, we're in the same state we were. We've just moved up to a new compiler. Post 12, I'm hoping we can find that, yes, okay, the newer GCC, or we can find the dev toolset, use that. On Power, again, that same thing that I found said that maybe we can get it for Red Hat. Now, I don't know how you transfer that over to CentOS. But
Redis and CentOS are...
Like CentOS is a...
Yeah, but there should be like, at least technically.
Technically, I know, like, basically we use a recompiled version for, on our CentOS x86. Maybe we can just rebuild whatever Red Hat has for CentOS on Power.
So another thing is, I found a way to audit that. We can, there are tools that can tell us exactly which symbols and which std level we're using, we could actually put a limit on this and get it so that at least until we have a solution, we don't exasperate the problem. We can
Right.
still build with GCC 6 binaries, which will run, for example, on Zinnia, on Ubuntu 16 with
Right.
a default configuration, which is nice. So
Right. So that actually is quite interesting. So that would be, you know, maybe it's like setting up a job that's going to go red if we introduce a dependency. Now, is V8 the ones who are more likely to introduce that than?
no.
No. Okay.
It's probably gonna be us because V8 uses Clang.
Okay.
I gotta go, but keep talking. Bye.
So it's probably gonna be us.
Okay.
It's the 4.9 issue came from Node, not from V8. And that also is nice because it does allow us to use newer language features without incurring a high requirement from the libraries.
Yeah.
Which is a nice thing to know.
Yeah, I think setting up a job that would tell us that. I mean, it does make me now think about if the existing one, do we really need to use that symbol if the code is in Node?
I think we can get rid of it.
Because that would be really good. Like, okay, if that's a change and it's actually something we could backport, then even though we're using the higher compiler, if it would then run, that would be a really good thing.
Yeah, I think, again, I think our dependency on 4.9 is one symbol, and it's, as far as I remember, it's not super important. So there are things in newer GCC, especially around the standard library, which will incur a dependency. We can audit that. We can make sure it doesn't happen until we have like a dev toolset solution,
right?
A static linking solution.
Okay.
Guys, I've got to go as well.
Yep.
The two things on my plate for 12 to get that building.md pull request merged.
Yep.
I think we're pretty close to final status on that. I just need to clean up the Python and Mac OS. Or actually, I don't know about Mac OS. Again, we've got no feedback about Mac OS, so we're just going to have to roll with what I've said in there. If we get pushback later on, then maybe we'll deal with it then. We can always go backwards on these things. We can't go forward. So I'll try and get that done in the next week. And the other thing is the unofficial build stuff. I have actually started working on this unofficial builds idea, putting something together to put up as a proposal and something concrete. So I'll try and get that up in the same time frame, at least the beginnings of something, so that we have evidence, so that when we drop ARM v6, we're not just dropping them completely on the floor. That's my main concern there.
Okay.
So I'll try and publish that soon.
Sounds good. And so Rifat, are you working on getting the newer compilers onto the the x86 machines and Windows machines? Or that's where I was sort of starting at, was how are we doing on that?
So Linux, etc. I have a plan.
Okay.
Windows is shame we don't have Joao here. Windows needs more like discussion and attention. For instance, Visual Studio 2019 came out, went gold today. We can't build we can build Node, we can't build V8 7.5 with the newer compiler. I'm handling that. Microsoft is going to EOL a couple of Windows 10 older builds which are the ones we're running. Well, we need to discuss that and deal with that. Node 6 going end of life allows us to get rid of a lot of like a whole tier of Windows machines, which we stopped using for as soon as 8. We don't compile.
But that stuff I would wait till after. I would give it like at least a month after, because sometimes we've done like if there was a security release the week after 6 was end of life, we might consider doing one, right? So I think we don't want to turn off a bunch of stuff too quickly.
Yeah, but so I was thinking about at least in terms of Jenkins, like copying all the jobs and having like a set of jobs that can run, that can compile and test Node 6, but clean up like a lot of stuff for the regular jobs. That might be very nice. So like we can do this incrementally, and then once we're sure that 6 is dead, we just throw away all the old jobs, turn up some machines, and we're done. But in terms of doing, we need to make a plan, tiny plan for Windows and implement it.
Okay.
Updates, upgrades, and targets.
Okay, because I think we're down to like 2.5 weeks to the 12 split, or like the first version.
Yeah, so we're ready with minimal versions. We're not optimal. We have,
yeah. Okay.
So we could improve as we go along.
Okay, so but you figure that for the non-IBM platforms, what needs to be in place is in place, or?
I need to make sure everything is
okay.
in place.
So you'll check that. Maybe it might be good to have an issue, or maybe
I think there is.
Okay.
At least
it might be just good to update.
Yeah, I'll clean them up and make sure
okay,
they're current.
Sounds good. Okay, that's good, and I think we're a few minutes after, so maybe we should call it a day. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for everybody watching.
Yep, bye.